guys, so it's been a while. Today I'm gonna do a review on a monster that I've been waiting for pretty much a year or even months for it to arrive, but it finally did. And I actually got along with two more, was this figure here. So today's review is on the very last of the Chojus that I got when it comes to figures about this size, Aribunta from Ultraman Ace. This monster had appeared in episode 5. He was one of the early monsters. He did not make too much appearance. Well, actually, he kind of in Ultraman Ace again, except it was just because he was modified into a different suit, but we'll talk about that later. He eventually made appearances in other, like the very newer Ultraman movies or shows. Although, I don't know too much about the other ones, so we're going to eventually stick with the Showa version, which I think this one is based on. But yeah, so now this did not come with a tag. It's very similar to the other ones I got, like the King Crab one. The King Crab never came with a tag. It was just the figure itself. It kind of felt like I bought it used, but it was actually a new condition. Although, because of the packaging, it might have had sometimes scuffed paints or whatever, but for me it doesn't really matter. And besides, it kind of gives them that beat up look anyways, because I mean in real life the suits would have been like dirty and other things like that. So let's take a look at the figure itself. This is one of my smaller figures that I actually have, along with other monsters, because most of the monsters I have are like about this big. He is honestly he's very small. Along with King Crab, he was another small one too, but there's other ones that are just shockingly big, but we'll get there later. So, oh, another thing, I don't know if I said this, this is actually the last of the Chojus that I got. Like, this is the last one I'm getting out of the Choju series, because I think I got all of them. It would be cool if there were other Choju toys as well, but there sadly isn't. The only good thing about them is that they are starting to appear in TV shows like the newer ones, but that's a long story. Yeah. Now, let's take a look at the figure itself. The figure looks pretty cool. However, just to let you know, this is actually a knockoff of Aribunta. And to be fair, as a knockoff, it's, I believe, based on the Spark Doll version. Although, whether it was the Spark Doll or knockoff version, I actually prefer these smaller Aribuntas than the the ones that are from Bandai, because the Bandai, like the very old ones, it's like there's one where it's just all pink and it doesn't look that great. So I prefer this variant, although since this is a knockoff, it doesn't have as much details as the real Spark Doll, but it was better than nothing, and it was cheaper anyways. I didn't want to pay a lot of money if I got the real McCoy. The details on it are very nice, though. He has white on the hands. He has some painted antlers. He's actually based on an ant, by the way. It said that he was a mix between a carnivorous ant and a space monster, and that his name, I believe, means army ant or something. Well, actually, parts of it means a regular ant, but then the other part means army ant, so maybe he's based on an army ant, which is one of those types of ants that are carnivorously painful. Not as bad as the fire ants or bullet ants, but still, you still want to avoid. Some ants can be very dangerous, or, like, they can bite you really badly. They're actually now this kind of, even though it's like the first day of February, this kind of goes well for Valentine's. His head, for some reason, this red area looks like a heart. I don't know why, but it just looks like it. His teeth are, like, his eyes are supposed to be like that, so it's, if you wonder why is it not painted, it's actually like that. It came like that. Even the real monster doesn't have pupils, he just has bug eyes. He has like these strange bristle things on there. And this is the back of it. Parts of the back of it for some reason look like wings, like these sail looking things, but I think it's just, you know, these things that are sticking out, like these two dangling things. I think these details are supposed to represent like exoskeleton or something, because he's based on an ant, so ants, since they're insects, they're gonna have exoskeletons, which sometimes some exoskeletons look like shells or something, but others are not shell looking. They're more like they're just exoskeletons. I recommend you Google it. But yeah, it's nice that I have a creature that's based on a like your typical creepy crawler, which is an ant. Yeah, his feet look interesting. Tail, it's actually supposed to be like that. It's a very stubby tail, but it's better than nothing. The thing that I think it looks nice, besides the tail and the wing-looking sail things, is these two pieces there. I kind of think it made the monster look pretty cool. However, I don't exactly know why when it comes to monsters, they all have this... They, like, what's with especially the Chojus to where they have, like, these strange pieces that are on the back of their... and I'm eventually going to show this on my Choju collection, but here's an example of King Crab. It's just basically a... Well, for him, it could be understandable, because since he's based on, like, a horseshoe crab or, like, some sort of a crustacean, he's going to have details like that. Out you go, though. So, yeah, for some reason... Like I said, there's no detailing that is like yellow or anything. Kind of sad. The details on the stomach are nice, although parts of it, like I said, are not fully painted, but it still has the details at least. He's kind of simplistic, although at the same time I like how they did add the ridges and like the strange blister details, which is nice actually. He's actually one of my favorites also, even though at first I wasn't crazy about him, but now that I think of him, he's probably one of the coolest creatures. But anyway, yeah. Now let's get on to articulation. He only has 4 for this one, although he would have 5, which would be the tail, but because the tail, very similar to the King Crab, does not rotate, unfortunately. It became one piece for some reason. The only thing that I am happy, though, unlike King Crab, is that there is an articulation point, but we'll discuss it later. First, the arms can move. They can move 360, but you have to carefully pull it. However, the last time when I pulled the arms, because it has like a ring, it kind of comes off and it doesn't come back on easily. And because of it, it results the arm falling off easily. So, his arms can rotate 360 degrees, although most of the time it's just going to be a 180 degree because of the things on his back and how strangely his articulation is positioned. What is a nice feature, however, is his head. The head can rotate just like that, so you can have him looking around. It's not a bad articulating point because his neck is not the same as the body. What does, however, bother me, although I just don't know why they still have this, is the torso. The torso, for whatever reason, rotates, which doesn't really make sense unless you want him to wiggle around, but even then, what's the point of that? But yeah. Okay, so the details were quite nice. Now let's get on to sizing. Now, this monster is 57 meters tall from what I heard. Let's just compare him with a Choju, another Choju, which I'll plan on keeping. Is Baraba from Ultraman Ace, another Choju. This sizing is perfect, however, I do think he should be much taller, but this is good, because Baraba is like, I think, 80 or 70 meters tall, and he's 57, so this is perfect. Looks fine to me. What about Hands of Gear and another Choju? Let's just do scales on Chojus first. I don't know about the scale. I think it's okay. How about a oil refinery? I think he destroys an oil refinery in one of the newer ones. That looks pretty good. I like it. What else? What about Velocron, who's also a monster that is like 50-something meters? This is not right, unfortunately. They should be at least about the same size since they're both 50 meters, but sadly he's just so small for some reason. I already showed King Crab, which unfortunately is worse because King Crab is actually much taller. He's actually taller than Barba. What about, I had another one here. Doragori or Dorogoras from another earlier episode. I think this is okay. Although I do think they should be a little bit taller. But this is not that bad because he's actually 60 meters. He's 60-something meters. Or is he 50? I'm going to have to check the tag again. That's him. What about Brocken, another Choji? This Choji, unfortunately, is not well known. But he was well known with his roar. This is perfect to scale because Brocken is actually 63 meters tall. And he is 57, so this is a good size. Although I do think they should be a little bit bigger, but still. Yeah, Doragori is 67 meters, okay. What about Tyrant? Who did not come with a tag, but did come in one of the other series. This is perfect. However, he should be not too small either, but this is good because Tyrant is 62 meters. What about Astromons? I don't know about Astromons. I believe this is correct because Astromons is like 60-something meters, so this is perfect. However, I do think they should be, again, bigger. But it's not as bad as the other monsters. I think King Crab is probably the worst scale, unless you were comparing it to smaller monsters. What about Vakashim? Excellent. This is excellent. Vakashim is 60-something meters, 65, so that's good. How about the Mr. Stay Puff Man? This is not right unless you want to have a 100-foot Marshmallow Man or 100 meters. But if you're doing it by feet, which would I think be 30 meters, that's not correct. What does look okay though for him, but it still should be bigger, are these Micro Machines. So that's good. Okay, so the scale of it was, yeah. What about Black King? Black King is one of my favorite monsters. This scale is not great either. Wait, is it? Actually, it is. It is. The only problem is that he's just too small. He should be at least about the height of his neck, but it's not terrible. What is actually much better, since this monster I'm about to review is 100 meters something, is Mechagodzilla, but the newer one. Now, this is perfect. However, I do think at the same time he should be a little bit bigger, but because this monster is in the newer 100, I call it the 100 size Godzilla monsters, this would actually be perfect, because usually these Chojus are like about the size of a building, and he is much bigger than that. He's probably about the size of those famous towers or any stuff like that. What about the Ultra Heroes? Unfortunately, I don't have Ace or Zelfie, but I do have some Ultras that are similar to Zelfie. This sizing is not great. Even Ultraman Jack, sadly, is not great. Although, if you're into details, it's not that bad, if you think of it. Now let's get on to the other monsters. Godzilla, yes. Why do I even have this Yeti? I don't know why I put him there. What about Sedora? I don't remember the size of Sedora. From what I'm seeing, it doesn't look too bad, although I think it's even cooler because they are actually both insects, except he's not a Choju. He's actually based on a scorpion, but a kaiju one. These actually look... You know what's funny is that I have some of these monsters that have like these funky hands, whether they are Chojus or not Chojus. This actually look pretty good with your Gigan figures or Megalon. I don't know about King Caesar. I think he's too big. What about Red King? Not very great. even though Red King is a 40-meter tall monster, they're not supposed to be taller than the Choju. Chojus are supposed to be, like, for Gamora, look at this. I wish he was, like, this is how big Aribunta should be. But he's sadly not that size, so it's not very great. What about Naranga? Naranga is okay since he's in his... But because he's like a Baragon monster, it's not going to be that great. But it's not a bad scale. I think he's okay. I have other monsters, but I'm not going to show them. I think it's just... This video, for some reason, gets too long. King Ghidorah looks okay. And so is King Kong, of course. Now let's get on to the history of this figure. Or the history of this monster. Before I mention the history, I want to say this real quick. I got this from AliExpress, so that's how it's a knockoff. But now we're going to get on to the history of this. Aribunta appeared in the episode 5, which is one of the early episodes. He actually appeared before this fellow. Yeah, he was like before this one. He was actually in what I call a two-parter, but not the type of two-parter where it was a part 2 episode. He was in this episode where he had a master called Gyron Man or Gyro Man, which is the type of Sajin or alien of one of Yapul, because he's meant from Yapul, that evil thing. Kind of sounds like Yahoo, but it's Yapul. What I do know, this is honestly, his episode is really strange. But not in a creepy way. It's just, maybe it's because of the characters. All I know from what I heard and from what I seen is that this has some... Now, this gets kind of strange, what I'm about to say. He has something for females' blood, but it's a specific type of blood that they say. They say that, like... It's been claimed that Aribunta is after humans, but mostly females that, like he preys on females that have a specific blood type, which is kind of strange, especially for, like, why would it be on females? Shouldn't it be on both, you know? It just doesn't make sense. It's kind of a little bit like sharks, but no, this is not a shark, this is an ant. Sharks, you can talk about in another story. He preys on people that have a specific blood type. There's a scene where he destroys a subway that, like, it's underground. He sprays, like, the subway and people with this mist that turns people into skeletons. It's like an acidic white mist. Unfortunately, because of his powers, he has these strange powers to where he would be unnoticed. The people that are discovering why people are going missing can't understand how people are going into the soil until Ultraman, like the heroes who turn into Ultraman, which I forget their names, they go underground and they fight Aribunta. Now, I saw the part where they're fighting in like a tunnel and stuff. I'm just gonna use, we'll just use the regular one. So they're fighting in all... You know, it's I think it's the only one to where they fight inside of like a tunnel. It's kind of weird. So then after that, a master called Gyro Man appears and traps Ultraman Ace. Although the thing is that it's kind of a long story since it features a master called Gyro Man, but I'm just going to give you the history of this. Now this gets also even more confusing. They claim that there's actually 2 Aribuntas in this episode, although from what I saw it looked like it was just 1. But there shockingly was actually 2. They claimed there was 2. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe it was because they were using different footage of Aribunta to make it look like 2 monsters, but I have a feeling that it was mostly only 1 Aribunta. Whatever. There's a part where where Zophie comes to the rescue, and basically gets Ultraman Ace out, and they both start fighting Aribunta and Gyro Man. The strangest way he dies is so strange, because this is what they did exactly. I don't have an alien with me, but what they did was they took the monsters like this, and just ram it into the alien Gyro Man, and just and you can hear it's like a snap or something, or like a strange noise, and you could just hear the munching noise in a way as if they died, and then they just strangely fall like that. So that's the end of it. And then everyone is like happy and all. It's like the usual ending. Now, after that episode, he did not appear again, although here's the thing. There's a monster, I think it's called he's based on a firefly. I forget his name. Something something with an H. It's like Hookturanga or something, or I forget what it is. All I know is that he's a type of choju that is based on a firefly. He appeared, I think it's called Summer of the Horror series or something. I don't know if it was after the Kaora or King Crab episode. Apparently his suit was modified to a different insect called Hookturanga, which is based on a firefly. If you go to the Wikipedia, you'll see it. Even though he doesn't look like much, I sort of realized maybe it was because of the stubby tail, except the tail, like the pincers, were twisted the other way, so it looked more like scissors, or crab pincers, whatever it is. So yeah, so his suit was modified for a new monster in the Ultraman Ace series, which is interesting. Now, he did not appear again, but his origin story sort of had a strange appearance, because there's an episode to where I think it's called the Sixth Ultra Brother. I'm not going to explain the plot of it. All I know is that it's like a remake of the Aribunta thing, except the only difference is that Ultraman Ace only fights the two, and he doesn't use Ultraman Zophie, because and they even claim, which I believe is true, yeah, it is true, that the suit of Gyro Man, the master of him, was modified to another alien called Underground Mon or something, like underground, or it's like underground but underground or something, like undergrom or something. It's a strange name. I don't know how to say it right. He has a monster that is similar to Aribunta, not the same style, but it also had like things in the back like this, called Gita Gitanga, which is that thing that sprays alcohol, and he's the one that looks like a devil. He's really creepy and scary. If I'm being honest, I prefer this episode than the Gita Gitanga episode, because Gita Gitanga's a very ugly monster. Although there was a time where I saw an image, I think it was a cartoon image, where because the two episodes had similarities where they both used monsters, and the masters were even similar to each other, except Gyro Man looked more like Michael Jackson, they both had monsters that both had two pieces in the back, although for some reason Gita Gitanga had like these two fried chicken things, which I assume were probably his gas tanks that spray out the alcohol. Whereas this one, he has like these skeleton looking things that I guess is like his exoskeleton. I don't know. But that's all I've seen from him. He has appeared in like the newer episodes, but I just sadly don't know the history of them. I did see a thumbnail where he was at an oil refinery, or it was like a picture. But if anything, he did make it in the new series of Ultraman, which is quite nice, because there's not too many of these monsters, like these chojus, that get much attention. We recently got a episode of Baraba, which I thought was very good, because he was one of the main importance of characters. But anyway, yeah, so that's Aribunta, and that was the history. He appeared in episode 5 along with a master called Alien Gyro Man, and it's even more funnier that Ultraman Ace, like the second season, actually had an episode that was similar to this, except it featured a monster called Gita Gitanga and a alien that was based on the same suit as Gyro Man, but modified into like this hairless, they call it Ungra Man or something, Underground Man. So yeah, and that's actually it's even funnier is that they both come from underground places too. Even Gita Gitanga comes from an underground place. But anyway, yeah. So, and then his suit was also modified as the Hokturanga monster, which was based on a firefly. But anyway, yeah. His merchandise, I would prefer getting this particular one, whether it was a knockoff or the Spark Doll, even if he's tiny, because the details from what I saw in the like the Bandai one, he's like this really ugly pink color, more of like magenta, and I don't think you would want a magenta Aribunta. I think it's better you get ones like these with this purplish shade. But yeah. Aribunta is one of my favorites, and before I end the video, I want to show you the collection of Chojus I have. So out of all the Chojus I have, these are the 8 Chojus I have. And I'm being serious about this. I mean, if I want to, I could get Yapul and Ace Killer, but they're not really my favorite villains or something. In fact, I prefer the monsters more than the villains. Although I think I do have a master that might go well with this, but he's not really a master, but he'll be in the next video. But this is the collection of Chojus I have. I have Vakashim, I have Brocken, I have Doragori, Velocron, Aribunta now, that's my recent Choju, King Crab, Baraba, and Hanzagiran. And actually, while we are talking about the topic of monster toys or Chojus, which of these Chojus, by the way, is your favorite, or which of these toys are your favorite? You could also choose, like, how many favorites, if, like, this is your first favorite, second favorite. If I'm being honest, I think they are all my favorite, but for you guys, you probably might just want to say, oh, I prefer this one. Let me know in the comments which one you like. Do you like number 1? Do you like number 2? Do you like number 3? Do you like number 4? Do you like number 5? Do you like number 6? Do you like number 7? Or do you like the last of number 8? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll respond to the comment, and I'll gladly appreciate it or respond it. And I would also appreciate it if anyone comments on my videos or subscribes to them. But anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. We are the Chojus, 'cause we are the strongest.